Good morning, brothers and sisters. We're starting a four-part series on Psalm 130, one of the songs of ascent, the songs that the people of Israel would sing on their way up to Jerusalem for one of the three annual festivals, preparing their hearts to worship together as God's people. This psalm reads, "Out of the depths I cry to you, O Lord, hear my voice. Let your ears be attentive to the voice of my pleas for mercy. If you, O Lord, should mark iniquities, O Lord, who could stand? But with you there is forgiveness, that you may be feared. I wait for the Lord, my soul waits, and in his word I hope. My soul waits for the Lord more than watchmen for the morning, more than watchmen for the morning. O Israel, hope in the Lord, for with the Lord there is steadfast love, and with him is plentiful redemption, and he will redeem Israel from all of its sin." As we walk through these four parts of this psalm, 2 verses in each part, we're going to see the condition, the cause, the confidence, and then the celebration. This psalm itself is like a song of ascent, starting in a valley and ending at a place of heightened worship. After seeing who God is, pulling us out of that place of despair. This psalm, and one of the verses in Eugene Peterson's paraphrase says, "Forgiveness is your habit, that is why your worship." So we're calling this four-part series, "Forgiveness is Your Habit." First today, the condition that we find the psalmist in, and often we find ourselves in, is one of just crying out in despair. The psalm has to do with guilt and forgiveness. And I just recently read an article, 6 ways to lighten the weight of guilt in your life. And just want to throw these out, not to diminish them. They surely might be able to weaken the feelings for a moment of guilt. But God's about something more. He wants to remove guilt. But this article from the Huffington Post said that you just need to laugh a little bit more, that release the endorphins of laughing. It would change the feeling away from guilt. Toss out your guilt. Write it on a piece of paper, the thing you did wrong, and then throw it away. Say, take that guilt. I'm not going to have you in my life anymore. The third thing they said is talk it out. Sit down and just be open with someone, not for desire to change in your life, but just to get things off your chest. And then one was called loving kindness meditation, where you just have a mantra where you repeat to yourself, I am forgiven, or I am happy, and show yourself some kindness. And the fifth one was called tackle your tasks. Just jump in with all gusto, take that energy, negative energy of guilt, and put it into being more effective, and channel your feelings into something positive with the last one. Instead of feeling bad about yourself, help somebody feel good about them. And the article ended with this line: all it takes is a little shift in your outlook. And I don't think that's honest. We don't want to just manage the feelings of guilt. We want God's perspective. In this song of ascent, we want to rise out of the valley of that pit of despair, of wrestling with our own sin, and find his prescription not to lighten the weight of guilt, but to remove it from us. You know, God's forgiveness is often talked about and often assumed, but for something that's often talked about and assumed, there's so little of freedom actually experienced of God's forgiveness. But we find in this psalm hope for all time. Our sin, past, present, and future, is taken care of, and one day we'll be free, not just from the penalty and the power of sin, but the presence of sin itself. But the psalmist here at the beginning, we find ourselves in a similar situation often in life. He's saying, calling out of the depths I cry to you, O Lord, this image of being overwhelmed with water. Another psalm says, save me from the waters, they come up to my neck. I sink in the deep mire where there is no foothold. I've come to the depths and the water sweeps over me. You know, you could be in circumstances that are difficult, or facing the consequences of decisions you made, or the collateral damage of something that someone else has done to you. But this ascent out of that starts with this cry. Cry out to God. This is not a look inward. It's not introspection. It's not soothe my feelings or cope with them. It's not escapism. It's not trying to numb or avoid them. And it's not lashing out in anger, although that might be part of the process. It just doesn't resolve anything in our heart sometimes, but does vent it. But this is crying out to God. Listen to this prayer. Let your ears be attentive to my pleas for mercy. That's what we're going to be talking about in the psalm, mercy. Grace is getting what I don't deserve. Mercy is not getting what I do deserve. And when we are in the middle of sin and wrestling with the guilt and the shame of sin, we cry out for mercy. That's beginning. That's the condition of the psalmist. And may God help us as we walk through this psalm together to realize that forgiveness is God's habit, and that's why we do worship him.